everyone, welcome here. My name is Justin. I'm one of the youth associates here at Village Church, and I'm so glad that you're able to join us for week 2 of our series, The Struggle is Relational. If you weren't with us last time, then I want to let you know that this is a series essentially doing like a deep dive into the conversation about relationships. We're talking about relationships with ourselves, relationships with others, singleness, dating, romance, intimacy, and so much more. And today we're going to focus our entire time specifically on the topic of dating. And here's the thing, dating is confusing and complicated. I mean, deep down, we all kind of want to know that we are known and we want to be loved for who we are. We want to be cared for. We want intimacy. We want vulnerability. But at the same time, relationships, especially like romantic ones, can be very hard and difficult for us. Think about it. For example, like most of us have been like walking and talking like our entire lives, but walking up to that cute guy or that cute girl just to say hi can feel incredibly complex and like pretty intimidating. It can make us nervous and scared. Most of you have grown up like communicating on your smartphones and social media like your entire life, but when it comes to like sending that simple message to your crush, you can't help but like stare at your phone for hours and hours just thinking about the perfect thing to say and the right way to say it. Most of us have seen hundreds of movies and hundreds of TV shows and even real life couples of examples of people who are dating in this type of relationship. So it seems so simple in theory, but when it comes to the real thing, you feel like you're just constantly overthinking every single detail and it just feels so much more complex. You know, it's just another day in math class. And then you look across the room and you lock eyes with that special guy or that special girl and you kind of lose your breath. You know, your heart begins to beat faster, your palms get a little bit sweaty. Okay, maybe that's just me, but you know what I'm talking about. You start acting differently. You want to impress them. You want them to notice you. You want to get their attention. So what do? How do you act? Like, what do you say in these moments? It's not so simple. It's complicated and it's confusing. Like, even the language around dating can get a little bit confusing. Like, are we dating? Are we just friends? Are we a thing? Are we flirting? Are we intentional friends? Are we just hanging out? Like, what's really going on? How do we define this thing, right? So today, we're going to kind of slow things down and we're going to talk about dating. And we're going to try our best to kind of understand the wisdom that the Bible has to offer. But here's the catch. The Bible doesn't actually say anything about dating, or at least not anything about dating specifically. The Bible has a lot to say about relationships, yes, 100%, and it even has a lot to say about like romance, but nothing specifically about dating, because if you didn't know, dating is actually a really new concept. It's a new practice, and it's actually only been around for like maybe the last 100 years. And what we need to understand about the Bible is that when we look at it, it's actually a collection of writings that were written like thousands and thousands of years ago in a different culture than the one that we're currently living in. So in the Bible, we're not going to find like a step-by-step guide on how to find a boyfriend or a girlfriend. We're not going to, see a list of the best pickup lines. We're not going to get like a list of rules or commands telling a guy how they should act or dress on a first date. These kind of tips and tricks, they're just not really in there. But even though the Bible doesn't say specifically a lot about dating, this doesn't mean that the Bible doesn't have anything relevant to offer to this conversation, because even though it doesn't talk about dating, it does have a lot to say about how we should act as individuals and how we should relate to other people. In the Bible, we see countless examples of principles, truths, pieces of wisdom that can ultimately help us when it comes to this conversation around dating. Because ultimately, what we need to understand today is that there's a wise way to date, and there's definitely some unwise ways to date. But before we get too far, let's take a few minutes to pause and talk about this. So why don't you turn to the people around you in your small group or whoever you're watching with, or if you're watching this on your own, think about this question and share your thoughts with someone you trust. Question: how would you and your friends define the word dating? All right, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that discussion. So a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I, we went to the mall to do some shopping. And what you need to know about me and my wife is that we're two very different types of shoppers. I know exactly what I need to buy and exactly what store I should go to in the mall. So when we get to the mall, I'm headed straight towards that store to get that very specific thing at that very specific place. I know exactly what I'm looking for. That's how I shop at the mall. Now my wife, very different. She will like kind of go to the mall and she isn't really looking for anything at all. She's kind of like, that kind of means she's looking for everything at the same time. So she just kind of wanders around the mall, going store to store to store, looking at item after item, shoes, clothes, jackets, whatever, seeing if anything will catch her attention or like strike her eye out of the endless options in front of her. So when I'm at the mall, listen, I'm like a man on a mission. I have an objective, I have a destination, I have a vision in my mind, I have a purpose that I'm going after. But my wife, she'll go to the mall and, she'll just like shop around. She'll have some fun, it's kind of casual. You see, we're both shopping, like we're doing the same thing, but we have two very different approaches. Here's the thing. Most people in our modern dating culture date like they're just like shopping around. They wander around looking at person to person, not knowing who or what type of person they're actually looking for. They're searching, but they aren't searching for anything in particular. It's casual, it's fun, it feels nice. It's almost kind of like a game. And they hope that at the end of the day, they'll find that person that will catch their eye, give them attention, and make them feel something special. And that's the thing about modern dating, is that most people don't approach dating with a specific type of person in mind or a specific type of relationship in mind. Instead, people approach dating with a feeling in their mind. I'm looking for someone or something that makes me fill in the blank. Feel good, feel happy, valued, significant, wanted. And sometimes it doesn't even really matter who that other person ends up being or what the relationship really looks like, just as long as I can get that feeling out of it. Now, listen, feelings aren't bad. It's definitely part of like having a relationship, especially a romantic one. We have all sorts of feelings, but feelings can't be the only factor at play because feelings eventually fade. Feelings can change over time. We need to date for something deeper, something more intentional, something that can ultimately last. So what's the alternative? What do we do instead? What is dating all about? Well, the rest of our time, we're going to look at 3 ideas that I think can be helpful for us when it comes to understanding what dating is all about and how we can do this well. So here are the 3 ideas. Dating is about wisdom, dating is about discernment, and dating is about commitment. So the first part is wisdom. And this is important because we can easily make unwise dating decisions simply because we all have a strong desire to date. I'm looking for a feeling. Everyone else is doing it. I just want to have some fun. So we rush into this idea of dating, but we need wisdom. And here's the thing, wisdom often comes from community. Proverbs 12:15 says that the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. So here's the thing, in dating, we often like to go solo. It's almost like when couples first get together, they go into this like weird like hibernation mode where they, like you used to hang out with that guy or that girl, and then all of a sudden this person's in a dating relationship and they almost disappear for what seems like, like a year or months at a time. We play this weird isolation game and it's not always the most wise decision because this passage actually says that a wise person will listen to the advice of others. A wise person is someone who will invite their community to be involved in their relationship. Like a wise person will invite people that they know and that they trust and that they love to come and watch and speak into their relationship. And this is the beautiful thing about Christianity, is that we're called to do life in community. Even if you're in a dating relationship, you're called to do life in a community. So look at the people in your life that love you and that know you best and ask them, like, what do you really think about this whole thing? Maybe it's some close friends, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a mentor or a youth leader. These people tend to know you better than you think and can oftentimes see things that you don't even really see yourself. So be open to their advice and really listen to the things that they have to say about your relationship. If they think that it's a good thing, then it's probably a good thing. If they think it's a mistake, then there's a good chance it might be a mistake. So one author puts it like this. He says, lean hard on the people who know you best, love you most, and are willing to tell you when you're wrong. So who's your community? These are the people that can help you make wise decisions, help you think straight, help you avoid major mistakes, help you walk forward in the right pace. Dating is about wisdom, but dating is also about discernment. That's our second point. When I say discernment, what I mean dating is about asking really good questions. Questions about yourself, questions about like the other person, and questions about how you two like actually fit together. Because ultimately, you want to make sure that this relationship is right for you, but also that it's right for the other person because we don't want them to get hurt and we don't want to get hurt ourselves. So ask a ton of questions like, are you ready? Are you healthy? Are you dating each other? Why are you dating each other in the first place? Like, what are your goals? What are your expectations? Why do you even like the other person? What's their reputation? What do others say? What does that person love the most? What are their beliefs like? What are their value systems like? What do they think about Jesus? Like, listen to what the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians 6:14. He says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness? So Paul, he's giving advice about discernment here. And he's basically saying that if you're a Christian, you should not date or marry someone who's not a Christian. Now, In this passage, he isn't really critiquing those who don't follow Jesus, but he is saying something important about the values that we have and the stories that we're living in. Because values, the things that we believe, the things that we hold deep, these things influence everything about our lives. Our values shape the stories that we find ourselves in. And it's going to be very difficult to have a healthy relationship with someone who's living in a different story, with someone who has different values. Like it just isn't really going to work. There's going to be friction there. There's going to be some conflict that you're going to run into. I mean, when I was a kid, just for example, two of my favorite shows, like two of my favorite cartoons, had a crossover episode. So I was stoked. Like these two shows and all of their characters were going to be coming together for one big episode where they would like mix together. And it was supposed to be this like big, amazing thing. It was getting all this hype. But I remember as a kid, I sat down to watch this episode that I was looking forward to with my brothers. And honestly, at the end of it all, I was just like super disappointed. Like these were different characters that I loved. These were different animation styles and different stories. But when they came together, these stories, they didn't really mix well. These characters didn't really fit together. They weren't acting like themselves. These stories did not fit together. And as a teenager, you're most likely can interact with lots of people who are living different stories than you. And you might see someone and, you know, they might be cute. They might get your attention. They might be funny. But in the end, you might be living two different stories, and those stories might not actually fit together. Here's why this is important. As Christians, our story says that the biggest and the most important thing in life is your relationship with Jesus. Now, if I date someone with a different story, a different perspective, a different value, eventually this is going to lead to unhealthy conflict or maybe an unhealthy compromise, because the most important thing in our life will constantly be going head to head. So what we need to understand about dating is discernment. Dating is about asking good questions and getting to know the other person involved. So the third point is dating is about commitment. Now, this might sound a little bit strange, but here's what I mean when I say that. When it comes to dating, we need to have an expectation or a vision or like a destination in our mind about the relationship. Now, as Christians, we cannot lose sight of the fact that dating is actually the first step in a larger commitment towards marriage. Now, that's a big step. We're kind of teenagers, so listen up. This is not the only step, but it is the first step, which makes this a pretty big deal. That is the vision, and that's the destination that you as a Christian should actually have in your mind as you enter into these type of committed relationships. So we have to do some evaluating, like who am I? And who do I want to become? What kind of life do I actually want to live down the road? What kind of person do I want to be? And what kind of person do I want to be with? What kind of marriage do I want to have? This is like a big commitment. This is a big life choice. So maybe dating isn't something that we should do so casually or just rush into. Like maybe this is a bigger deal than we often think. And so I think we all need to ask ourselves the question, like, what is our vision? What is our motivation? What is the purpose for all of this? 2 Timothy 2:22 says, flee youthful passions, pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord from a pure heart. What are you pursuing? What's your motivation? Maybe you just want to look good in front of other people. Maybe you just want to fit in. Maybe you just want to feel like you're wanted by somebody. Maybe you're bored and you just want to have some fun. I don't really know what it is for you. Or maybe you want to pursue those things that the passage talks about. Righteousness, faith, love, peace. These are the characteristics of Jesus himself. And isn't that what this whole thing's actually about? Pursuing more of him, becoming more like him, knowing more of him. We have to set a proper expectation and an accurate vision for where this whole thing is headed. Without these things, a relationship like this can go so easily sideways and people can eventually get hurt. Your job in a relationship is ultimately to help your partner become more like Jesus. Their job in this relationship is to help you become more like Jesus. That is the ultimate motivation. That is the destination. Listen, most people don't start here, right? Dating is complicated, it's confusing. A lot of the time, it's actually easier to pursue other things when it comes to dating. We date for fun, right? We date for feelings. We date for validation. We date for all sorts of reasons. I mean, oftentimes we choose convenience over commitment, right? When it comes to dating, we choose convenience over commitment, but the true picture of love only comes through commitment. The true picture of love is the end game. Full trust, full intimacy, full commitment. The type of love that sticks with you through no matter what. And the good news is that we don't have to go very far to find that kind of love. because this is the love that Jesus has for you. An everlasting kind of love. One that sticks with you regardless of what you've done. It's the kind of love that knows the things that you've done, knows your mistakes, knows the things that you're ashamed of, knows the things that you're hiding, and it sticks with you through it anyways. I think one of our biggest fears when it comes to dating relationships and getting close to someone is this idea of rejection. That we'll open ourselves up and let someone, we'll let them come into our lives and we'll let ourselves be known for who we truly are. And at the end of the day, they won't like what they see and eventually they might leave us. It's a big fear. But the beautiful thing about Jesus is that he sees you for who you truly are. And he sees everything that you've ever done. And he's still willing to give everything for you. He's committed. He's in it till the end. So as we approach dating, I just want us all to be reminded to keep Jesus at the center of this whole thing. He alone fulfills our lives. You're searching for love and Jesus already loves you. You're searching for value and Jesus already values you. You're searching for commitment and Jesus is with you until the end. So, yes, dating is complicated, it's confusing, but I think if we remember that dating is about wisdom, it's about discernment, and it's about commitment, and ultimately, if we keep Jesus at the center of this whole thing, if he remains the goal and the vision in our minds, this will remove some of the pressure that we face, and in the end, I think things will be okay. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. And I hope it gave you something to really think about when it comes to this topic. We're going to dive deeper into this discussion with our small groups, but if you're someone who's watching this maybe on your own, I would encourage you to kind of think through what was just talked about and talk about it with somebody you trust, maybe a trusted adult or someone older than you, and we hope to see you guys soon.